Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome to OneMinuteTennis.com. In today's session, I want to talk to you about how to get more power in your ground strokes. And it's not always technique that makes the difference. We can watch players like Medvedev, who doesn't have great technique, but he hits the ball pretty hard. It's surprising. It doesn't look as hard, but his forehand in the final of the US Open was almost as fast as Djokovic. And yet the technique is nothing like the same. So I want to show you how you can get more power in your ground strokes without changing the technique. Now, what we're going to come back to is the kinetic chain. And the kinetic chain, body, arm, racket, racket, arm, body, is the way to generate power most efficiently when hitting, striking, or throwing an object. But within that, there's unfortunately more complications because it begins with the legs, and then the hip, and then the shoulders, and then the arm, and then the racket. And by then, we should have generated enough power that the racket then takes over the stroke and becomes a racket, arm, and then body. But how to do it, how to actually make a real change in your game today or the next time you play. And why do some players find it easy? And I think it's the transfer of skills from other sports. You see, if as a kid you just played tennis, then obviously your emphasis is on hitting the ball. If you only took up tennis later in life, then the first thing that you worry about is hitting the ball. And when we worry about hitting the ball, then we're going to push the racket through contact with the ball. So let's look at the difference now between pushing, throwing, and pulling, and then see how we can change pushing into throwing or pulling, because you'll get a lot more power. In terms of tennis or any movement like it, I think it's easy that you can define pushing as pushing against resistance that's ahead of us. You see, so if I'm moving in that direction, there's something heavy there, then I'm going to push against it. Alternatively, if I'm throwing, it's as though there's no object there at all, no resistance. I'm just throwing. And pulling is where I'm pulling from a resistance from behind. There's something behind me that I want to pull forwards. I know I can pull forwards this way, but that's just totally different to what's going to happen in tennis, so it bears no relevance to what we're trying to do. So to begin with, I'm just going to self-feed and throw the racket through some forehands down the court. So I'm not worrying about technique, I'm just literally throwing the racket through the ball. And the feel of that is pretty good. But I only did it with one hand. And the correct movement in tennis and the correct throwing is with two hands. So now I'm going to use a soccer ball and look at the difference. So with the soccer ball, I'm now going to be using both hands and I'm going to throw the ball down the court. And when I threw the soccer ball down the court, I could feel my whole body being a part of the motion because I used two hands. So now I'm going to try and throw the tennis racket through the ball, but I'm going to kind of reproduce the feeling of the soccer ball and make sure that I have a relationship between the two hands. A simple self-feed, but this time feeling like a soccer ball. And this was much more powerful and much easier, a totally different feeling to when I threw the racket through the ball. But what was the difference? You see, if I just think of throwing, then I isolate the arm. But when I use the concept of the soccer ball, then I'm using the body first, then the arm, then the racket. But how to apply this into your forehand? So throwing and pulling are almost identical movements with very different sensations. So what I'm now going to do is imagine that I have somebody holding my racket in the end of the unit turn back here, and they're holding it and resisting it, and I'm going to pull it out of their hand and rip the racket through the ball, but I have to pull very hard to make sure that I pull it out of their grasp. And now I have the same feeling as throwing the soccer ball, or maybe even more power, but with a feeling of control. And this is much easier to apply if you're used to pushing than changing it to throwing. I know the normal concept, the traditional coaching method, is to try and get people out of pushing the ball into throwing the racket through the ball. But this is a difficult change to make. But changing from pushing to pulling is an easy change to make. So the next time you're on the court, maybe today, then as you get the easy forehands, the in-control positions on the court, not the emergencies, then as you end the unit turn here, then think about pulling your racket forwards. And the kinetic chain is perfectly natural when you make a pulling motion. It's just, you see, if I was pulling here, I'm not going to pull just with my arms. I'm going to pull with the body. You don't see people in tug-of-war teams that are standing upright pulling. You pull with the body. So if you replace this natural pushing feeling, especially for people who took up the game later, then you'll naturally embrace the kinetic chain, the movement of the legs, the hips, the shoulders, the body, the arm, the racket, and you'll hit harder and faster with a lot less effort. So try this now. Let me know how it works. You know we love your feedback. If you like my ideas on tennis, check out our books on Amazon. We've got a complete range of books covering every part of the game, and we break the game down into the biomechanics, the physics, the anatomy, and then give super simple solutions such as this with great illustrations. It's aimed to be a real teaching and learning experience. Or join people in over 30 countries all over the world that I'm helping with one-to-one online coaching. We provide detailed video analysis and then personalized lessons such as this. It's a truly unique service and it works. For more information, have a look at the website or email me. So don't carry on pushing the ball. Pull the racket through. Attack the ball with speed and with the correct kinetic chain, and you'll have a better forehand today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for more unique tennis lessons that really work.
6-4, 6-4, 6-4. Again,